Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today you're going to see one of my most stressful games in the history of me playing World of Tanks for 11 years, and it's going to be in the Tier 8 Swedish tank destroyer. It is the STRV S1. Now this vehicle you wouldn't really describe as stressful, right? Kind of sit at the back of the map, use ultra high penetration, pretty darn good accuracy, not exactly the worst kind of damage per minute, to hopefully be able to pick apart your opponents with leisure from the back of the map. However, I'm not like most S1 players when I play this vehicle. In fact, while this game was live, somebody in Twitch chat told me, QB, it is not the STRV 103B. I guess thinking that they don't realize about the way that the armor works on this tank, thinking that it only has to be played at the back. It doesn't. This vehicle is very proficient against all 90mm caliber guns and smaller that can't fire high explosive anti-tank rounds. Now, to understand exactly why, you'd have to be able to figure out how overmatch mechanics work in World of Tanks. If your gun's caliber, and you can find out by holding control and mousing over the gun or looking in the garage, for example, this is 105mm, is more than, and it must be more than, not equal to, 3 times the thickness of the armor that it hits, then it will always go in as long as the penetration rolls match, and it usually will do unless you're playing something freaky like a KV2. So for example, this tank has 30mm of armor on its upper hull and its lower hull as well, which means that a 91mm caliber gun and larger is required. However, that is because of the way that armor-piercing rounds work in World of Tanks, and that is they will penetrate up to 70 degrees of angled armor, but will ricochet anything beyond that, unless the overmatch rule takes into account. However, high-explosive anti-tank rounds will penetrate up to 85 degrees of angled armor, which means that vehicles like the S1, which are literally designed to use this 70-degree angle armor-piercing and APCR, should we say, bounce rule, get completely negated as soon as the enemies have heat. So for example, a tank like a T-71DA, if it loads a heat mag, is going to be able to go into this vehicle, but if it loads the AP mag, unless it gets the side or the rear, it's really not going to be able to go in. And so for example, when I'm playing against something like a Super Pershing, I'll sit in front of it every single time. The only thing that you can't account for, however, is you see this penetration on the weak point on the top. That is the only place they're going to be able to go through. And if you put a turbo on this vehicle, it's not even that slow inside the siege mode. This vehicle inside the siege mode, I believe, is limited to 11 kilometers an hour, but if you slap a turbo on it, yeah, you're going to be starting to go up towards like 12 kilometers an hour, which means that with this vehicle, you don't even really have to leave the siege mode along ridge lines. It's perfect for coming up, and that even stops your reticle from blooming out in a significant fashion. And so you can really work the ridges, and I'd say the turbo is the #1 piece of equipment on this tank. After that, depends on the map you're playing. I'll probably go with coated optics on this vehicle and with vents. And now a lot of you might be going, what? What about your damage per minute? Well, I don't really feel like the damage per minute on this vehicle is its exceptional strength. Don't get me wrong, it's got 2,294 base, which is important to be able to inflate. But considering that the base accuracy of this vehicle is 0.3, which is not bad, but not absolutely amazing, I like to improve that with the vents. Also remember, the vents are still going to give me 3% rate of fire, so the difference if I was to take the vents off and put a gun rammer would be 7% extra rate of fire. I don't think it's worth it for the extra view range that I've managed to gain in this vehicle, the traverse speed, the aim time, all of these kind of aspects. And apart from when you absolutely, utterly need to fire as fast as you possibly can, the S1 I feel does really well with vents. Now, if I was playing the STRV 103O or the STRV 103B, I would definitely want to use a gun rammer on those two tanks, because those vehicles are not just about landing a shell, they're often about locking down your opponent's tracks and being able to position yourself where you can not only go through their tracks, but also be able to go through their hull. Now, interestingly enough, don't worry, I haven't disconnected at this stage of the game. I alt-tabbed because there was some cheeky scoundrel in the Twitch chat who was giving me some sass, and I think I just felt like I needed to be able to address it at that time. Where's my army of moderators? But sometimes it's actually, sounds a bit weird, but almost more entertaining streaming this game than it is playing it. At least for the amount of time that I do after all of these years. And I think it's definitely still the content creation that keeps me directly linked to it. And it's, oh man, the social, and I still love going online, and I still love making YouTube videos after all these years. And when I also get to have games like this to commentate on, just wait to see why. Yeah, it still gets my excitement and my adrenaline going now, just thinking about this round when it happened live. Okay, so now, having dealt with all the goblins in Twitch chat, we can focus back on trying to carry this game. We went round the east, then we backed off because there was a CS52 lease up on the hill. Now the CS52 lease has been dealt with, that actually means that the hill is open again. And a vehicle like this, which it's not exactly the fastest of vehicles, doesn't have a very impressive power-to-weight ratio of 16, so it's more like a regular medium tank or even a more sluggish medium tank. You can still make some sweeping plays. And because this vehicle's reverse speed is so good, at 45 backwards, nearly as good as the top speed, which is 50 forwards, that can actually end up allowing you to even drive backwards up slopes, which would allow me to keep my armor against the ELC even 90, or possibly to be able to bounce the Super Pershing down below. However, unfortunately, what you're going to see here is that while I'm just waiting for an opportunity, waiting to not get proxy spotted in this scenario, I'm actually going to end up kind of like just driving up forwards up this slope. And in retrospect, it was probably a little bit stupid to do so when I could have reversed. So I should really just turn around now and go up the slope that way. By going up this way, considering there's no one up on the hill, I'm literally just putting myself at a disadvantage. And if I needed to, for example, stop and be able to engage the people behind me, I couldn't do that. And so definitely make use of the fact that your Swedish tank destroyers are pretty much just as efficient going backwards as they are going forwards. And don't be a silly sausage like me. Alright, so my team are down by 4 tanks and also down by 2,000 hit points. Although 4,000 to 2,500 doesn't really seem an insurmountable amount to recover. Unfortunately, there's an ELC even 90 on the enemy team who's full health, as well as a Borsig that could pose to be a little bit of a problem later on. Now in this kind of a situation, I'm really worried about that the Borsig has come up and kind of flanked up to near where the Super Pershing is. Because if that vehicle's using the 150, I am gone in a single shot. And even if they're using the 128, they're going to put me down into a point where I'm not going to be able to take another shot from anything else. It's a bit of an annoying moment here. I definitely should have waited for the ELC. And this is just frustrating. And this is where possibly the gun rammer... No, it wouldn't. That was like a quarter of the circle. I would have needed some kind of Bond gun rammer to be able to make the difference there. And unfortunately, I don't quite get the shot on the ELC with the pillar absorbing and shouting, "Get down, Mr. President," for the ELC behind as they manage to remain. So we pick up our first kill in this game. The Skoda T56 gives us a thumbs up for finishing off Gary Goat in their Borask. And yeah, you want to try and finish off as many of those sneaky tanks as possible. Because this vehicle, even with coated optics and vents, the field mods, and a very good crew, as I do have on my Swedish tank destroyers because I love them so much, still is not all of that amazing. I'm probably getting up to about 460 meters view range. Although I do feel like in this tank, it's actually really nice to have the coated optics, because even when you're moving around, you're going to be able to get the jump on a tank like this Borsig. And oh, that's what I want to see. He actually doesn't even have a fire extinguisher, but it looks like it has a very good fire extinguisher crew. And I'm just trying to bait this Borsig into firing. But I also realized that I had to take the chance, because artillery hurts for pretty much half of what the Borsig would. The Borsig actually whiffed a shell that looked like a firework going off towards a more completely different direction, maybe to the moon. Some kind of GameStop shares of a shell there. Luckily, I'm not kind of like the whale who's kind of propping up the market, and it doesn't manage to catch me. Okay, so the Super Pershing got spotted down below. Unfortunately, I got spotted as well. I pinged the map where I think the ELC even 90 is, which is going to be just towards the south of the Skoda. And because I'm spotted, I have to get myself back into cover to be able to avoid the artillery. As sitting up on the hill in this very big boxy tank, it's probably not going to go very well for me if the artillery do manage to catch me out. Alright, so this game, still neck and neck. We've only got 800 hit points between our remaining team, of which I have over half of them. So that means that it's upon me to try and make the plays to take the enemy out. So I'm going to slinky my way down the slope, hopefully sneaking up after the ELC, and talk about the worst possible timing. The ELC right there. Luckily, I managed to get one shot onto them. They penetrate their first shell. I've got to push them off the edge here, so I stop them from being able to flank me. And that's it. He's out of ammunition. So I was thinking, okay, just come over here and try and turn my tank. And oh my lord, I have a serious physics problem. I literally couldn't turn this vehicle because of the hydro-pneumatic suspension. And I was cursing everything at that moment. I've got a high explosive round loaded now, however. Remember, the HE rounds on this tank have got 480 damage. So if I high roll, I will be able to finish off this ELC for 90 in a single shot. Okay, so unfortunately the Skoda falls. I'm down to 97 hit points now, and the AMX M445 finishes off the artillery, leaving me in a 1 versus 5. Now the ELC has clearly reloaded a gold mag here, bounces their first shell, doesn't bother to finish their second. I missed the shot on the ELC, once again cursing my misfortune. And right now it just looks like it's completely over, right? I'm stuck in the open against 2 artilleries, with now 11 hit points to my name, while stunned for the maximum duration of 10 seconds. I've got an ELC bombing it around. I narrowly missed the second shell. But I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Never give up, Uncle Scrubby Baby. Never surrender. There's still a chance. Firstly, let's get away from the Super Pershing, keep our frontal armor towards our opponents. Let's try and avoid the artillery shells, using the mounds, and maybe I can create a distance so I can be able to get into this bush, spot the AMX, and then reset the cap, or even just deal with the ELC who's coming over. And there he is. The ELC gets caught right out into the open. They can't be able to go through my armor. They have to hit my weak point. They miss. I'm wiggling a little bit to try and make the Super Pershing fail. They don't penetrate a gold shell. They should fire an HE shell in this situation. I don't know why they're not reloading HE. They're just keeping on spamming the 2 key. I stress at our not being able to hit that weak point on the Super Pershing. And with the threat of artillery, the threat of the AMX in the side, this Super Pershing who just wants to keep locking me down with his gold rounds to my tracks, I am absolutely sweating it right now. This is so awkward. I want to try and come around the corner, and there we go! We put a shot right into the top of the Super Pershing. And it was at this point that I realized, oh my word, I'm in contention for a Kolobanov's medal, the one that everybody wants for standing alone against at least 5 opponents, and in this case it was exactly that. So I spot the AMX in the open. I'm going to just let the chips fall where they may right now. My coated optics spot him, and luckily it looks like my camera rating holds and the AMX doesn't manage to find us. Our adrenaline rush has gone off right now, and in more ways than one, both in-game and both IRL, as even a low roll there against the AMX M445 couldn't stop us from being able to finish them off. So now, with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the game, I've got to try and isolate the artillery before they separate and go each and every way. I don't think I'm going to be able to get into the cap circle in the next 30 seconds if I do it safely, perhaps, but even then, 2 artilleries come at me at the same time. Interestingly enough, you can see that I switched from an HE shell to an AP shell here because I didn't like the idea of sniping with an HE shell at this kind of a distance. And luckily, the AP shell flies true, doesn't low roll like my shot against the AMX did, and that gives us a chance now to hopefully find the last GW Panther with the sirens blaring, warning me that there's only 2 minutes left on the game. We're up to 6 kills now and 4,700 damage, and our 11 health 1 versus 5 is all coming down to whether we're going to find the GW Panther here or whether they're going to find us. And they're right there. Okay, I get my gun on target, but I haven't been spotted. Okay, now I could low roll this HE shell in a way. Could 480 roll that low? But to be fair, it could deviate and not manage to penetrate. So I'm going to keep calm. I'm going to hope that the GW Panther, just try and put some pressure on him. Maybe he moves, maybe he makes a mistake. I'm going to get behind a bush, and I'm going to take absolutely no chances as we pick up the final frag with the final minute remaining on the game. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was one of my favorite moments of the year and one of my favorite, should we say, outnumbered carries in World of Tanks. It was looking absolutely dire, but did we give up? Did we hell? We were surrounded by a Super Pershing, getting circle strafed by an ELC even 90, 2 artilleries raining shells down upon us. But with a few moves and a lot of luck, we managed to take down this 1 versus 5. So don't give up. Don't stick your gun up in the air and let your opponents farm you at the end of the battle. Give it a go. And just who knows, what you'll end up achieving. This was an ace tanker for our 1,572 base experience, a high caliber medal for our 5,500 damage, a defender medal for protecting the base against that AMX, a Pascucci's medal for destroying 2 of the enemy artillery, a Spartan medal for ricocheting with less than 10% of our hit points, a steel wall medal for managing to block 1,400, showing you that this vehicle is very proficient against the right caliber of gun, and the one that everybody wants, the Colabanos medal for standing alone against 5 opponents. Yeah, I think I'm going to need a bigger jacket for all of these medals. We did all of this without even spamming any gold to make 206,000 credits profit with a credit booster. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, this game was everything that I'm about. Take your chance, go for it, outplay your opponents, and sure, also get to be a bit of a lucky baby. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Monday, I'm going to be going live all day with brand new Twitch tokens so that you can be able to get closer towards either the T14 heavy tank or the Panzer 3K, or maybe you already have those vehicles, so you're going to pick up the 5 times experience games and save them for the upcoming British wheeled medium line. So, really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.